It's the eve of July 1st, 2026, and inside the Vatican, a clock is running out. The Pope has issued a final, desperate plea to a rogue faction of traditionalist Catholics, begging them to halt a ceremony scheduled for the next morning. The group is called the Society of St. Pius X, or SSPX, and tomorrow they plan to consecrate 4 new bishops without the Pope's permission, an illicit act that threatens to fracture the global Catholic Church. The man trying to stop them is Pope Leo XIV. Born Robert Prevost, he is the first American-born pope, and before his election, he spent years steeped in the rigid logic of Catholic canon law. To a canon lawyer, the legal structures of the Church are the bedrock of the faith. Ordaining a bishop without a papal mandate is a direct rejection of the Pope's power to govern. The impending defiance is set to take place at the SSPX seminary in Écône, Switzerland. Tucked away in the mountains, this campus operates entirely outside of Rome's jurisdiction. On one side, we have an unyielding canonist pope. On the other, a traditionalist group about to cross the Church's ultimate red line. The leader pushing the SSPX toward this edge is Superior General Father Davide Pagliarani. He claims the group is in a state of necessity. The SSPX's 2 surviving bishops are aging, and Pagliarani argues he has to consecrate new leaders to save his movement from physical attrition. This timeline chart shows the birth years of the 4 priests chosen to become those new bishops. Notice how all of them were born well after the sweeping reforms of the Second Vatican Council in the 1960s. These men have absolutely no living memory of the pre-Reformed Church. Because they've spent their entire lives enclosed within the SSPX ecosystem, their careers have never intersected with standard diocesan or Vatican structures. Their formation is entirely isolated, making their ideology deeply incompatible with the modern church hierarchy. Recognizing the danger, the Vatican called an emergency meeting in February 2026. Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, the Vatican's chief doctrinal official, offered to open fresh peace talks, on the condition that the SSPX call off the July consecrations. The talks collapsed immediately. In a blunt letter, Pagliarani rejected the offer, stating, "We both know in advance that we cannot agree doctrinally." For the SSPX, submitting to Rome's canonical rules isn't viewed as a path to reconciliation. It's viewed as institutional suicide. And the date they chose to make their stand, July 1st, is heavily loaded. It is the exact anniversary of the group's original act of defiance. Back in 1988, the SSPX's founder, Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre, did exactly what Pagliarani is attempting now. He consecrated 4 bishops against explicit papal orders. The consequence for Lefebvre and those 4 bishops was swift. Pope John Paul II declared that they had incurred latae sententiae, a severe penalty in Catholic law, meaning automatic, immediate excommunication for committing a schismatic act. The tragedy was that a compromise had been on the table. Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, the future Pope Benedict XVI, led negotiations that almost prevented the 1988 schism, offering legal status and the right to their traditional liturgy. Lefebvre backed out at the last minute. Seeing Cardinal Fernandez and Father Pagliarani reach the exact same impasse in 2026 reveals a nearly 40-year pattern of mutual, unbreakable distrust. The ghost of 1988 makes one thing clear. When strict canon law meets traditionalist survival instincts, a collision is inevitable. By May 2026, the Vatican issued a final ultimatum. They explicitly warned the SSPX that proceeding with the July ordinations would be judged an act of formal schism, resulting in automatic excommunications across the board. The SSPX responded by doubling down. They published a 28-page profession of faith, aggressively denouncing the modern Church's teachings on religious liberty, ecumenism, and the post-Vatican II liturgy. Under canon law, the penalty isn't triggered by angry letters, it happens at the altar. The moment the consecrating bishops lay hands on the 4 kneeling priests and elevate them to the episcopacy without papal approval, the excommunication is automatic. This flowchart shows the long-term damage of that act. By elevating these young priests, the SSPX is actively creating a self-sustaining line of bishops, forming a parallel hierarchy that can ordain future priests entirely independent of the Pope. Caught in the crossfire of this canonical dispute are everyday traditionalist Catholics. Families who simply want to attend a Latin Mass and receive the sacraments find themselves navigating a deeply fractured religious landscape. Pope Leo XIV drew an absolute red line, but by ignoring his plea to secure their own institutional survival, the SSPX has cemented the first major Catholic schism of the 21st century.